Anderson again. We follow
Hello, hello.
people who have these stations. I saw
Welcome, welcome everybody. If you're on, seeing a couple other folks trickling in.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah.
Hello, hello. Welcome.
Aloha.
Got about, it's 1800 on the dot here in California. So we're going to get started right now. Thank you all who have joined for being on time. We're going to, admit people as they join. My name is Jeff Stock. I am the CEO, co-founder of Hired Labs. You should have received an email from me before today, letting you know that this is what was going to be happening, and we're getting started. So thanks for jumping through the hopefully minimal number of hoops that we had you jump through to sign up. I got a few things we want to go through today. I'm going to give you an overview of the course, Hired Labs as a project, what we're doing, everything like that. But before we go too much deeper, I want to call out that we're going to record all of this. We should be recording right now as we speak. So if you're not comfortable with recording, now would be the time to do something about that. I would appreciate you turning on cameras and being engaged with us so that we can, talk to each other. I can see your beautiful faces smiling back at me. And we can get going. And what I'd love to start with is just maybe quick introductions on who we are. Branch of we're all veterans here. So branch of service, maybe some highlights about it, where you are now. I can go first as an example. My name again, Jeff Stock, Marine Corps veteran. I was active duty for about 9 years or so. Well, 8 years, 11 months, 16 days, but who's counting all that noise? I was stationed in North Carolina, stationed in Germany for a bit. I was a Russian linguist and interpreter. So I was a signals intelligence guy, and I did Russian stuff, did some treaty compliance negotiation things. And I've been stumbling around in tech ever since. I'm in California, just outside of San Francisco in San Mateo. So I'm really excited to be here. I'm stoked to have you all here. So if somebody wants to hop in next, branch of service, kind of like what you're looking forward to in the course. If somebody wants to jump in, if not, I pick somebody.
Yeah, I'm Steve Jones. I'm over in Richmond. I'm an Army veteran. I used to, back in, I took a COBOL course back in 88, 87, 88. I did COBOL, I coded COBOL from 98, 99, from 98 to 2001. And then the company I was working with moved to Texas, and I didn't go. So I've done some other stuff. I have a food service background also, so I've done some food service work as a manager, project manager, front of the house manager. But I was attracted to this course because of the coding, the programming, and so it's something I've done before, and I'm interested in doing it again.
Excellent. Excellent. Happy to have you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. All right, who wants to hop in next? And again, I'll call somebody. Go ahead, Michael Collins. See right here.
Yeah, Michael Collins, Navy, 5 years, 2 tours in Vietnam. Yeah, I'm that old. Uh, I want to be here because I'm interested in artificial intelligence and writing prompts. Um, Python is one of those things that's frequently mentioned as a desirable skill. And, you can't have too many desirable skills in my view. So
Excellent.
I was here the last cohort, but I had to drop out because of some catastrophic equipment failures, and I just got too far behind. So this time I got a brand new computer. It actually works, and that will help, I think. So that's me.
Nice. Glad to have you back. I saw there are a couple of folks that returned from our first cohort. So good to see you back, Michael. Hope we go through. And again, we'll get into this, but I'm hoping we don't drop because of catastrophic computer failures. My computer actually died in the course too, and everything we do is online. So you shouldn't suffer from that failure. Like there should be a way to keep going even without your own personal device. But we get into more of that later. I'm glad to have you back, man. It's good to see you.
Thank you.
All right, cool. So who's up next? Michael Dillard, go for it.
Booyah Navy. Mike Dillard, retired Navy submarine chief, 22 years Navy. I did most of my tour in Hawaii, and I retired in Hawaii. I started my own company, a contracting company. So one of the things we're going to be doing this year is actually launching some like AI, like adaptive learning tech, like some software, hardware at the end of this. Well, actually, the end of this year, we'll probably finish the beta testing, and then probably quarter one next year, we're going to launch it. But my CTO and partner is my best friend from the Navy. And he
Cool.
said, you know what, you really should go back to school and like learn how to code, because CEOs get a lot more respect if you understand, if you're a techie guy. If you're not a techie guy, they're gonna be like, this guy don't know what he's talking about.
All right,
So I'm
fair.
actually going back to school at UH Manoa, University of Hawaii Manoa,
Cool.
for a computer science degree with a data science focus. And then a friend of mine, well, not really a friend, somebody that I know and I was thinking about possibly hiring for our company, she said, oh, you should check out this coding camp. So she sent me the info and I signed up. So here we are.
Excellent. 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 Glad to have you too. That's great. That's great to hear. All right. Who else wants to hop in? Little introduction service. What you're looking forward to here in the course?
I'll go. My name is Scott Ford. I was in the Navy for 7 years. I was stationed actually in San Diego and then Travis Air Force Base. So that's why I'm still in the North Bay area. I like it here, actually. I'm originally from Oregon. I am continually going to school. I'm a planner for maintenance departments across multiple places. Right now, I just got a new contract for Coca-Cola. I've done programming for full stack developer at Berkeley. I got a certification through that for Ruby on Rails and a lot of JavaScript stuff. I know Python was the other alternate language that I could have taken, but I didn't. I ended up taking application development instead of data manipulation. So I decided, okay, I need to do data manipulation because one of the things that I believe Michael said was, yeah, our future has a lot of things to do with computers. So you should probably know a little bit about what's going on the computer, at least the back end side. I was told that you guys were offering another boot camp for this situation, so I jumped on because I figured I have some good time right now for the summer because I'm not going to school. I'll just do this, which is kind of school, but
Okay,
different.
fair. Yeah, it is kind of school. It's I like that you said you're kind of always in school. That's kind of true for a lot of folks. That's great.
Always learning something.
Yeah. Always. So yeah, I'm hoping this is going to be the right speed for you. But again, we'll get through to that. If not, then we can hopefully point you in the right direction of something that will be. This might be something that's too low level for you if you've already done a full stack, you've done a bunch of apps and stuff like that. But
Maybe.
glad to have you, man.
Maybe.
We'll see. Yeah, maybe. We'll see.
We'll see.
All right. Who wants to go next?
I'll go.
All right, Robert, go for it.
My name is Robert. I'm also a Navy vet. A lot of Navy vets in here.
Yeah, what's going on with that?
I did 11 years. I did most of my time stationed in San Diego. I reside in the Macon, Georgia area. I got stationed out here in Georgia and got out and stayed out here. I took this course. I found out about this course because I'm currently doing IT classes. And one of the girls that's in my class told me that she went through this course and recommended it. So I figured, why not? I'm gonna fully submerge myself into the field and take advantage of what's the opportunities given. So I'm glad to be here.
Excellent. Yeah, glad to have you. All right. Who else wants to hop in? Quick intro.
Hi, I'm Diane, and I'm a retired Army vet, 22 years, and I work in health information management. And I just said, hey, it was offered to me, and so take the opportunity to learn.
Excellent. Excellent. Good to see you, Diane. All right. Who else wants to jump in?
Yeah, I'll jump in. Hi, everyone. My name is Richard. Like Diane, I'm also a Army vet. I met Jeff in City College. That's where I got my AA degree, and I'm currently in San Francisco State University for a public health major. So I'm trying to learn this class with this Bay Area. I'm probably like the only Asian guy who doesn't know coding, so that doesn't sit well with me. So I'm trying to upgrade my game a little bit.
Very nice. Very nice. Happy to have you, Richard, man. It's good to see you.
I'll go. My name is Cody. I was enlisted in the Marine Corps for just over 9 years. I was as a 2651. And what that MOS is a special intelligence communicator. So Jeff, I think
Nice.
as
I was 2676, man. Yeah, 51. It's good to see you, bro. Yeah.
So I lucked out. My first duty station, I was stationed in Hawaii. A mix of identity with the admin clerk who was working on our orders. I got his orders, he got mine. So I just took a step back and said later.
Nice.
In any case, after Hawaii, I went to Maryland, and then thereafter I finished up in Camp Pendleton. I did about 5 deployments, 2 on the MEU, 1 out to Afghanistan, and 2 plainclothes deployments. And so aside from that, let's see. Since I've been out, it's almost 12 years now. And to count my time in the Marine Corps as well, I've been doing a lot of like IT stuff, from satellite setup to communications chief to network setup and database setup, as well as like in the life out after the Corps. I worked with several different startups in the tech side, from ad tech to fintech, and most recently sales tech. And so I'm just at a point right now. Unfortunately, I was part of the trend of layoffs and whatnot, but it's all good. I kind of saw the writing on the wall as far as like things were going on. So just, I got lucky with the lottery pick on that, and so here I am. I heard about Hired Labs through somebody that I know, and she sent it my way, and I just decided, hey, I'm going to check this out. And for me, wanting to learn a code, so in the past 10 years working in tech, I've always had like this knack, this innate knack to like want to learn how things work. That curiosity just kind of led me here. And it took this long because during that time period, I had a tendency to dabble in a lot of things. And in startups, many people just wear different hats. And so anyways, here I am. I felt like this was a perfect opportunity to just enroll in the course to lay that foundation and build that growth into coding, specifically with Python. So
Nice. Very nice, Cody. Good to see you. Great to have you.
absolutely.
All right. Who else wants to jump in, hasn't introduced himself? Gabriel, you want to go?
Yeah, I'll go next.
Cool.
Good evening, everybody. I'm currently in Texas right here. And my name is Gabriel. I served in the Army for 6 years. And I started IT program last year. I did some certifications last year. And I wanted to go deeper into IT because IT is the new world now. And that's why I'm here.
Excellent. Excellent. Great to have you. There's a lot of Army, a lot of Navy. There's only like one other Marine going. What's going on here? This is terrible.
I was the only Navy last time.
Yeah. Now there's a bunch of Navy like it, and I want to know who this mystery person is that's recommended us to everyone, because there's like 4 people that said she, and it sounds like gotta be the same. No, I'm joking.
Wasn't me.
Yeah.
But you're kind of close to the Navy and Marines, Department of the Navy, so it's pretty
Could be.
close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard that before. So, all right, who hasn't introduced themselves? Who needs to go? I know, Chris, you haven't yet, right? Shrakta, you want to go? Anybody else? Did you freeze right when I called him out? Did I freeze right?
No, I just muted is all.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have nearly as much time in the military as the rest of you guys. I only did my 4 years and determined that just wasn't my cup of tea. I liked what I did. I just didn't. It's just the military. I was.
And you're also Navy, yeah?
Square peg round hole. Yeah.
All right. So and you're back from last class. Introduce yourself, man. So you're back from I know you, but not everyone knows you. So you're back from last class.
So yeah, I did this class through the last run as well. Basically, I'm just trying to reinvent my game a bit, as that's been mentioned already. The writing is kind of on the wall, and I need to find a way to move on. So I ran through this. Ruby, I've got some experience with that. It's just all kind of just fighting it out and self-taught. A lot of websites and Google lookups and everything else to get to where I had to go. So I've learned a lot of bad habits and a lot of things I shouldn't be doing along the way. And even if you hammer it through the hole, it still is kind of ugly on the other side. So I'm trying to put some structure to my world, put a little bit of just some finesse behind the actual the product that I'm stressing and trying to put out. So I'm going to repeat this class just to make sure that I solidify a lot of what I caught last time. It was sort of basically drinking from the fire hose, so to speak. So it comes at you fast and hard, and there's
thanks for bringing that up before we get going.
Yeah, there's only so much time in your day as you do your job. You live your life, you do your other stuff, and it was hard to keep up with your own learning pace in the background is going to be different. So some weeks it was easy to catch on and just keep things going, and other times it was you're kind of just taking the leap of faith and trusting what you had and move on to the next step. So I think this time I'll probably be able to focus on different things. I'll just like reading a book a second time around. You notice details you missed first time. So I'm just trying to repeat this just to make sure that I catch all the little details and nuances I missed through because I was too busy trying not to joke on the fire hose.
Right. I mean, we're gonna get into this in a minute when I actually get into the course material, but I don't want it to be too fast for anyone. So if it is like a fire hose, raise your hand and tell me and say it's too fast. We can slow down. I don't want to maybe be like I'm overwhelmed on this, but you are welcome to come back if you have that same feeling. All right, so that's everybody that I saw that had their cameras on. Anybody that's got their camera off and likes to introduce themselves, I will encourage you to turn your camera on and do so. If you have a camera that works, if you absolutely cannot, I understand, but we'd love to hear who you are real quickly and a little bit of service before we dive into the content.
My name is Theron Harvey. What are you guys saying? Who you are and where
branch
you're
of
from, all that
service,
stuff.
kind of
So
what
I
you're
was
looking
in,
forward to on the course. Yeah.
I was in the Army for a total of 17 years, and been working in like corporate America for the last 9. So I just started the course or saw the course online and just thought it'd be something cool to have in my tool belt and possibly use in the future.
Excellent. Good to have you there. Anyone else? Joe, I saw you just turn yourself on. You want to introduce yourself real quick? Say kind of branch of service, what you're looking forward to in the course.
Hey, yeah, my name is Joe, Army vet, 10 years. Been out for a while. I'm in the course because somebody told me there was a free training about something I didn't know yet. So I'm here. And I'd like to, I hear all the time people talking about learn the code, and I'm like, you know what? Why not? And so I'm here to add another tool to the belt.
Perfect. And that's the right attitude, man. Why not? It's out there to be learned, and the only thing stopping you is you. All right. So I think we got Scott, maybe Jimmy haven't introduced themselves. You guys want to hop on and say a quick word about who you are, your service, what you're looking forward to?
Hey, this is
Hi,
Scott.
everyone.
Sorry about the video. I'm having all kinds of trouble with connection. It's on and off. So if you lose me, I'll be back. But 6 years in the Corps, 34 years in corporate America, and everybody's downsizing. I've managed programmers, developers, and all kinds of different projects in the last 30 some odd years. And as I looking for my next phase of employment, this looks good. It looks like a really good opportunity, and really appreciate y'all putting this together and providing it to us at such a great price.
Nice.
So
Absolutely.
thank you.
Yeah, great. Thanks. Great for having you. Good to see finally another Marine here. So Semper Fi. All right. Jimmy, you want to hop off mute and introduce yourself real quick?
Yes, sir. So prior Marine Corps, did 6 years in the Marine Corps, 3 years in the Navy. Basically, the Marine Corps didn't want me back after 60 days. I left. I wanted to go back, and the Navy said, well, they don't want to take you because you got to start from scratch. Then we'll take you. And I did 3 years with the Navy. Right now, I have been supporting the Army over here in Maryland, Aberdeen Proving Ground, doing DevOps. Python is new to me, and I hope I can learn as much as I can about Python. I know my main programming language is Java. Secondary one is .NET with C#, but I'm new to Python. So this is a great opportunity for me to learn Python.
All right. Excellent. Yeah. And again, just like I was saying to folks that have some experience with this, we'll see this may not be your right speed. It may be a little, because the intent here is for absolute beginners, but if you're new to Python, this could be something that's useful to you. But again, it's not just a Python course. It's focused on developing broadly. So we'll get there. But again, happy to have you. Great to see everybody that's here. With that, I'm gonna start sharing a little bit of our course content, talk a little more about what we do as a project, and go through a few of these slides. I will not kill you with these slides every day. This is going to be the biggest set of slides that we have is the first day. We're going to be doing mostly hands-on stuff, but there's a lot of info I want to pass on the first day around what we are. So we are Hired Labs. Again, welcome. Thank you for being here. What we do generally is, as a project, we help enlisted veterans find meaningful employment. So we, me and my co-founder and a handful of other folks a few years ago discovered that there's been a trend for quite a while that veterans have a higher rate of being underemployed than our peers. And it particularly affects enlisted veterans. So those of you, again, I'm happy to see so many senior enlisted on this call, because ironically, the longer you serve in the military in an enlisted rank, the higher chance you are of being under enlisted and not using the skills that you had. Roughly half of the people who enlisted in the military don't even want to do the job that they did when they were in the military once they get out, if not more. So there's a lot of people in our community that are trying to make shifts and try to figure out how to grab the value out of the service that they did and shift it into something that that corporate America cares about. So that's really what our program, our project broadly is about. This boot camp is part of that. So this is our week 1 boot camp. This came about as we were working with veterans out here, mostly in the Bay Area, and providing one of our other services, our core service of resume rewrites. And we do supplemental job searches to help people that are looking for making a shift in their career, try to help them maximize the skills that they have. That's all available to you as well. We will reach out to that separately. Those are 2 separate things. This boot camp came out of conversations with people that are in that transitional phase, folks like us that have tried to navigate the civilian sector, maybe have been doing it successfully for a number of years, but like you said, for one reason or another, see the writing on the wall and want to learn how to code. When people tell me they want to learn how to code, I always tell them, don't pay for it. There's a lot of ways that people an organization will pay for a coding boot camp, or you can come to a place like ours where we will teach you how to do it for free. So here we are, coding boot camp, week 1. What we're going to cover today is just an introduction of what the course is going to be, what we're going to cover, how we're going to do it, and then we're going to get our environment set up and start working and playing around with it a little bit by the end. Generally speaking, though, I want to break things up today with the overview, talk about the logistics, talk about the course, and then we're going to take a break. I'm going to send everyone an email that has a list of free resources that we can use that we're going to refer to throughout the course, and an invitation to join our Discord server and stay connected with us between classes and beyond the 6 weeks. But that's also going to be an opportunity after we've gone through the course overview and talk very specifically about what we're doing here, what we're going to be doing, how we're going to be doing it. That break is a good opportunity for anyone who decides that, you know what, this isn't for me. This isn't the thing I thought it was. I'm going to take off. It's a way that you can just kind of slide out without making a big deal out of it. Even though we're not in a room together, I'm giving you an opportunity to make it clean like that. You won't hurt my feelings if you do. I do ask it if you decide this isn't for you, just let us know why. Send us an email like, hey, checked out the course, showed up for day 1. Turns out it wasn't for me. This is why. That would be great.
The rest of us will say lots of things behind your back, but sure, that's no problem.
We will mercilessly make fun of you. Yes, thank you, Chris, for calling that out. I was going to save that for later, but that's true military tradition. All right, so then after the break, we'll dive into the actual content and we'll do some very, high level. Everything we do here is going to be very high level, skipping through concepts and making sure that we grab just what's fundamental to move on to the next piece and then employ it in some way. So we're going to talk about programming languages, what that even means, what they are. I know some of you have a semblance of understanding of what that means, but this being geared towards absolute beginners, not everyone does. And then we're going to focus on Linux as the operating system we're going to use to do most of the work that we're doing in Python Anywhere, which is where we're going to end up with our walkthrough. And if you didn't sign up for Python Anywhere already, I'm going to continue to encourage you to do it. It's free. It's where we're going to do all of our work in this course. There are a lot of things about it that are valuable. The fact that it doesn't matter what device you're on, you could do it in the cloud anywhere. So if your device dies, you can still save your work. Your work will be saved. You can access it wherever. The fact that it's automatically deployed to the internet online from the beginning is helpful. So if you do these things locally on your own device, which you can, you'll just have to deploy it yourself if you want to deploy it, or you'll have to go through extra steps of running it locally and setting up your local environment. But that's another thing we're going to do over the break is take time to log in to Python Anywhere, which is free if you haven't done it already, because that's what we're going to do the course in. And I really recommend you doing it. All right. So now that we got you going on that, we were all excited to do it. I'm going to start off by saying I have nothing to teach you because I'm a jackass like that. End of the course, everyone go home. No, so the idea is this is actually something that I took from Buddhist stories that I really like. I'm not a Buddhist. I'm not trying to encourage that philosophy or sell it to you, but I like in a lot of the stories that there's a master that students come to and they say, I want to learn something. And the master's like, get out of my face. I got nothing to teach you. because the lesson is already, the student already has the lesson. That's very similar to what we're doing here. Not that I'm a master in positioning myself as that even remotely, but all the information we're giving is out there. It's stuff that's out there. This isn't privileged or special information. And so what I'm teaching you really isn't anything to teach. It's kind of showing you what's around and guiding you through what's out there. But it's really trying to connect the dots for people who've maybe tried a little bit, maybe who haven't tried at all, learning how to code. And it's really connecting each other with veterans who are learning how to code, who are doing different projects, working in different capacities that may want to work with other people who know how to code. A quick logistical note before we go much further. I see that there's some things in the chat. I'm not going to be looking at chat while I'm looking at this. It's impossible for me to do both. So take yourself off of mute if you got something to say, and I will ignore you and ridicule you like we mentioned before. And I'll try to answer your question. But go ahead and take yourself off mute. Feel free. I know I like to go through these things, but don't hesitate to stop me. All right. So what are we going to do specifically? So we're going to do very similar things to the coding bootcamp. I'm to a paid one. I'm shooting for the same sorts of things. So we have tangible projects we work on. We have specific, material that we're working on. We're gonna go from very simple to very not very complex, but the very, very basics up to more complex ideas and build something tangible along the way. And the objective that we're going to build is a fully functional web application that we're going to build from scratch in Python Anywhere. And this is the only thing that you're going to get out of this course. It's an actual thing. I mean, you'll get the recordings of these classes, you'll get the community that you build and things like that, but we're not going to give you a certificate. There's no certificates in this class. Build the website. That'll be your certificate. You can make it look like a certificate if you want to. But the app that we're going to make is a to-do list, because really all apps can be thought of as a to-do list. Doesn't matter what app you're talking about. Instagram, Facebook, makes no difference. The things you could do on a to-do list, create something, look at that thing, update the thing, or delete the thing. Those 4 functions are, every application does that, regardless if it's a web application, mobile application, that doesn't matter. So what we're going to do to show an analogy of all those things, that any system can be thought of that way, we're going to build a web application with that in mind. The intangible objective of this course is demystifying coding for everyone. So anyone who has maybe, again, thought about learning but hasn't, thought maybe you have to be a math whiz or some genius in math or something like that, and it's only the white tower geniuses that can do it. It's not true. Coding is literally for everybody. It's something you can do. It's not just for engineers. It's not just for coders. It's not just for developers. It's not just for people who love that kind of thing. It's a useful skill to have, and I want to make it seem accessible to you. I say give you the tools, quote unquote, because we're just pointing out where they are. Everything we use is free and accessible online. Most importantly, building community of veteran coders. So all courses, we're going to point, there's other places you can go. Again, if this course isn't for you, and even if it is, I do recommend you take other classes, other places. There are organizations that will pay for coding boot camps that have a price tag. So look into those organizations. I know some of them in the Bay Area if you're interested and you don't know that they are. I may not know ones in your area around the country, but I can help you look. Regardless, what course you take, the most value out of any course you take is the community of people that take that course with you, that you connect with. That's the information that they provide in any course can be found other places. You can go to a library on your own, you can learn those sorts of things, but the connection with other people is really where it's at. So again, at the break, I'm going to send out an invitation to join our Discord server. If you've never done Discord before, it's very similar to like Slack and things like that. Scott Ford, you got a question? Yes.
My bad. Sorry, I hit the wrong thing. My bad. I wouldn't do that again.
Oh, okay. So yeah,
I'm just getting used to the Zoom thing now. Playing.
Oh, sure. I know no one's done Zoom before. This is all brand new. So
new.
All right, cool. So again, connect with us, connect with each other, stay connected. This is not a specifically 6-month endeavor, but that's or 6 weeks. Sorry, 6-week endeavor, but it's the beginning point. All right. So why learn to code? A lot of you fill out this already. This is a highly paid, in-demand skill. We touched on this before when you talked about why you wanted to be here. We all kind of know that, but not just for developers. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, my experience with coding, and I've never been a developer, but I've been paid quite well on the things that I've built with coding. It's something that it's hugely in demand. It's a very, very good skill to have. And you could build literally anything. So some of you mentioned that you have projects where you're working on building different applications, or you have an idea in your head of what application you want to build. This will give you the framework to start whatever that application is. It doesn't matter, because you can take what we're going to build and rebuild it, retune it to whatever purpose you want. And that's really where we're going with this. All right. So course requirements. This is what's required of you to finish this course successfully. You got to be able to read and write. So you got to be able to do that in English, mostly is what we're going to be doing. Well, not English, Python, I guess, and some other languages, but it's written with English, Latin characters. But if you could read and write emails, you can code. So it's nothing really complex. You don't have to be an amazing novelist or anything like that. You have to have desire. So if you know, just like real boot camp, you have to actually pick up your feet when they tell you to run, or push the world away from you when they told you to push, or you wouldn't have done a push-up, right? If you didn't have the desire to do it, it wouldn't have happened. It's the same thing with this. You got to actually want to do it to do it. Internet connection, fundamental. This is done online. I mentioned this a couple of times already. Python Anywhere, our work platform, is accessible online. And we do this for a number of reasons. First of all, it shortcuts having to set up an environment on your local machine. So I don't care what kind of machine you're on. You could be on Windows, you could be on Mac, you could be on Linux, doesn't matter. We're all going to do the same thing. The thing that we have up there and we have access to is Linux. Talk about that more soon. But it's also because this course is for veterans, and a large number of folks that are impacted by prison systems or are homeless are veterans, and they may not have their own device, can only access things in the library or community center. So I want to make sure that those obstacles are not obstacles to learning to code and making the change in your that you want to make through this skill. And so just internet connection for this class, no other specific device. It will be hard to do like on a mobile device. If you're planning on just sitting back and listening, this probably isn't the course for you. You should just go watch a YouTube video or something. This, we want you to be hands-on and ride along with us. So, you know, get comfortable like splitting screens. If you've got two screens, cool. I hyper minimal, just a small screen, but you know, watch what we're doing, try to ride along with it, try to keep up. And then discipline. So it's going to take more than the 18 hours that we have together. And it's going to take longer than 6 weeks to really learn how to do any of this stuff. You're going to have to practice in between classes. You're going to have to go and do these things on your own. We have some things that we'll suggest to say, go and do this, go and do that. But there is no hard, again, we're not giving you a certificate at the end. You either build the thing or you don't build the thing. You either do the exercises or you don't. You can sit and watch and not ride along, and that's okay. But if you really want to learn it, you're going to have to have the discipline to practice. So that's it. This is a full list of the things you need for this course. There's no math listed here. We're not going to be doing a ton of math. Today probably is the most math we're going to do. And it's very, very simple. So this is it. There is nothing else to it. That's all you need. All right, now cost. What does this course cost? $0. We will never ask you for a dime at Hired Labs. Nobody at Hired Labs will ask you for money for any reason. We will not. Our services are all free for veterans, always. None of the tools that we use are going to cost anything. They're all free services that we found. They may try to pitch you on some kind of subscription or upgrade or something like that. We don't endorse any of that. We won't tell you to sign up for it. We won't make you do it. The free versions of everything we use will get done what you need to get done. You do a ton of stuff out there for free. So there will not be $1 cost to anything in this course. The only thing it will cost you, again, is time and effort, the participation. You got to put in the time. We want you to show up to class. We want you to ask questions. We want you to talk. We want you to try things, get stuck, and you know, let us know how you get stuck. I'll probably get stuck live writing stuff with you, and it'll be great. And we all get stuck together. And then feedback also. Again, very important for us as a very new organization. We thrive off of your feedback. This is now our second cohort of this. We took the feedback from the first, and we're working on making improvements. Hopefully this round is better. Hopefully next round is even better based on your feedback. So you can help us improve our things. And that's it. This is the full cost of the course. Your time, effort, and feedback is the only thing we're ever going to ask back from you. All right, so how are we going to do this? We're going to treat this like a real boot camp. Basic training is the goal. So we're going to give a basic overview of a lot of concepts. We're going to skip through some really deep stuff kind of quickly, but just trying to give you the tools and the understanding you need to be able to use these things in some capacity after this. And the idea is that just like boot camp, you will basically train soldier, I was going to say airman, but no, there's no Air Force here, sailor or Marine, who finished their boot camp, their basic training, and then had to go to some sort of specialized school after that to learn more specifically something else. So again,
I was technically an airman, by the way, in the Navy. Just
oh,
aviation
well,
stuff mechanic. So you can call me an airman.
Okay, that works. There we go. Got it. So there we go. Airman, soldier, sailor, airman, or Marine. So any of those things you could have done. I guess Coast Guard too. We got none of them. You could have been Coastie as well.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares. No.
But the idea is that you have to go focus after that. So Python, when we get into why we chose this language, broadly applicable. There's some things we've talked about before. It's not known for web development. We're going to use it for a web application, but it's good for data science as one of its big uses. It's good for automating things. It's very useful for that. So the idea here is to learn basics, understand, be familiar with, and then go and want to dive into something else deeper from there. So we're gonna have 6 weeks again of instruction, hands-on practice every day. We're gonna be doing something hands-on. So be ready to write code every day, write something every day, mess around with it every day, including today. We'll get to that soon. But it is self-paced. We have milestones along the way on things that you should have the project built to when we build the project together. But all the classes can be recorded. You can go back and watch them. We have our class recordings from before that will be accessible to you in the Discord server. So if you want to work ahead, you absolutely can. We're going to follow the same progression. We're going to do the same stuff. And again, you can go slower. You can come back like some of the folks have that are in the class now. Come back at a future course. It's all now that you're in our community, you are welcome to come back and be involved in as much as you want to be involved in at your pace. The main thing, though, is practice, ask questions, work together, and stay in touch. That's really the biggest thing, is just put in the time and effort. So this is generally what we're going to cover, broken down by weeks. So we say week 1, we're going to do our programming foundations. That's this. Today, we're going to go through do a quick break, send you out some resources, dive into the fundamentals of Linux and things I talked about. And then Thursday, we're going to do Python specific, run through syntax of basic Python stuff. And then by the end of that day, we'll be running basic programs out of the command line with Python. And then next week, we're going to talk a little bit about algorithms and data structures. And this is kind of the most computer sciencey week that we're going to have. It, again, will not require any math. We're not going to do any math. This is generally the place where math will help you, but it's okay. For this course, we're not going to get deep into it. We'll just point out places that you may want to learn math. I found myself wanting to learn more linear algebra and things like that as I started doing algorithms. And those of you that are learning or curious about doing AI and machine learning and that kind of stuff, it's going to be important for you to focus on that kind of thing. But again, it's not a stopping point for the course. It's just exposure to these concepts, a few reasons why we'd want to pick certain algorithms or data structures. And then we'll move on to the web development portion. So week 3 is when we're going to do the foundational parts, put in our backend framework. Django is the one we're going to use. And we'll talk about connecting it to the front end. We'll talk about front end design and development in week 4. Go back to the back end, set up our database, our data structures, talk about the interactions with creating, reading, updating, and deleting things, the 4 operations that you can do with everything. Then week 6, we'll wrap up the application and we'll do some advanced topics as we have time for it. I'm hoping to get to version control systems and how to use things like Git in particular, if you're familiar with that one. And if you're not, then hopefully you will be by the end of week 6. The overall goal here, again, is these technologies that we use. We'll talk about specifically why we chose each one, but it's part of the project that we run here at Hired Labs. And ideally, we would love to inspire some or all of you to get to the end of this, be functional with these things, and want to work with us on our project and use our projects as practice for pulling down other people's code, working on them, sending them back, because that's the kind of thing that you're going to do as a professional developer if that's the route you want to go. Even if it's not, it's very good practice to understand how to work collaboratively with people on coding projects. So that's the overall syllabus that we're gonna go through. A little bit about me. Why would anybody want to listen to me? So I told you I'm a Marine, and so maybe that's a reason not to listen to me. But I'm also a self-taught coder, so I don't have a degree in data science or any of those things. I have a degree in linguistics, which really got me interested in this. I was a linguist in the military. I'd been working in a tech startup that was a data analytics thing. And they started talking. I was curious about how computer languages were like, human languages. Turns out they're not very much like them. But that's what got me started learning it. And I just kind of fell down this rabbit hole, and I've been doing it for years now. So I'm not exactly a professional developer, but I have made pretty good money off of my ability to code. Some things that I've built specifically are like early warning systems for natural disasters around the world, and see if our contractors at the company I was working at might be affected by it for business continuity. Made some things that tell us the proper rate to pay a certain person with their skill set in another part of the world based on what we would pay them here in the US. Those sorts of things that I could do quicker or at scale only because I knew how to code with things like Python and JavaScript specifically. Those 2 things that I used most in my professional capacities that, again, I've never been a coder, but I've used both of those languages. They've gotten me promotions. They've gotten me paid as as an independent contractor. Very, very valuable skills to have. And I've tried a coding bootcamp. I think it's snake oil. I think they're trying to sell you something that they don't actually deliver. And the one that I did, I know they're all different. And again, I will encourage you to do other ones. The one that I did, the guy teaching it was he had only done the coding bootcamp. He had not done anything else of any kind ever. And so when you ask him a question, he'd just tell you to look it up. And he'd say, well, that's the job. And I was like, well, how do you know, dude? You haven't done the job. And it was just kind of this frustrating cycle of he would just push you back and make you do all the work yourself. And I was like, why am I even here doing this? I can just do this on my own. So there are different qualities, different levels of them. I absolutely encourage you to do them, but I do think that the knowledge that they have is not something that should be charged for. This free is out there. There's so many cool projects that people put the time and effort into and make them free and accessible. Ours is too. Our project at Higher Labs, it's open source, it's free. If you already know how to run things, you can go on there and run it and grab it and do what you like with it. So that's sort of where this came from. And I believe you can do it with what's available. I believe you as veterans know how to do this, not because you're better people, but because you have a higher technical aptitude. You have the basic understanding of following procedures, SOPs, all those sorts of things that are common between us, regardless of what service you're in. I know that you could take these things. I know you could do well with them. So if you haven't already learned them, hopefully this course will help you get there. And this is why hopefully you like to listen to me. But with that, we will take a break. I'm going to email out this resource list. And if you haven't signed up for Python Anywhere, do that. And if you're going to drop and disappear from the course, now would be a time to do that. I'm going to keep this recording running. I'm going to put on like a quick 10-minute timer so we all know when the 10 minutes is up. I'm going to hop over and email this, but I'm going to keep it going. I'm going to be on if people want to chat or talk or have questions before we go. Any questions before we hop to a break? No? All right, great. Great. So I will give us 10 minutes. We'll come back in 10 minutes and I'll hit you this email with the resources.
Thank you.
We're gonna check our email for the link or the resources that we need for Python Anywhere.
Yeah, Python Anywhere is just a website. So if you just type in pythonanywhere.com and just sign up there, that's what Python Anywhere is. It will be linked in the resources as well, though. So if you want to wait for that to come, you can. Just give me a minute. I'll send it over. All right.
Hey, Jeff.
Yeah.
If I'm still signed up from the last time I did this, okay, I don't want to start fresh, and do everything again.
Yeah.
Is there anything I need to do?
If you already got down to like creating the web app and all those things, you should probably throw that stuff out if you want to start completely over from scratch. So like go to Python Anywhere and go to the web tab, and down at the bottom it'll be delete app, and just delete that.
Okay.
And then the other thing you want to make sure you do is throw out any other folders, like your working directory, or if you had your virtual environment folders, get rid of those folders too. Just delete the folders entirely.
So where do I find delete app?
So it should be on the web section.
I'm looking on the.
Once you're logged into Python Anywhere, if you go to the web tab.
Let me log in.
Mm-hmm.
Anywhere. Okay, I'm looking at the home page for the website.
All right, and so it says, like, is it your dashboard that you're looking at?
It's not a dashboard. It's like the website where you type in pythonanywhere.com and the.
Yeah, did you log in?
No, I didn't log in.
Yeah, log in first, and then you'll be able to see your stuff.
Log in. Okay. Okay, there I am.
There you am.
And it's telling me that. Says my username or password is incorrect. That's the same. I haven't changed it since the last time. Okay. Here's where I'm stuck. I'm looking at the login page.
Uh-huh.
And it says where you have a space for your username and a space for the password.
Yeah.
I have my username from the last time, and it's flagged in red and it says the username or password is incorrect.
So yeah, man, it sounds like the username and password are incorrect. You're gonna have to reset your password probably if you don't remember it.
Okay, forget. Let me see. So this means I have an account as far as they're concerned, right?
Nah, not necessarily. So like if I was writing that, I
Yeah.
wouldn't put any information, like I wouldn't give any hacker any bit of information. I would just say there's something wrong. Right.
Yeah.
So like you may not even have an account. Try to reset your password, and if you have one, they'll email it to you. They'll email you a reset link.
Okay, there we go. Here's my reset link.
But yeah, that's funny. It's one of those things for, you know, cybersecurity kind of stuff that when you're programming something, if you're doing a login flow, you don't want to give too much information like, oh, hey, that password was wrong, and just say that, because then somebody that doesn't know that the username, then you just told them the username was right. You know what I mean?
You know what? Oh, it seems like it's asking me for an email. It's actually asking for an email address.
Yeah, it should be your email
Seems like-
address probably. Yeah,
Oh,
I
that's
think.
why. Maybe that's it. Let me try that.
Oh, we're using your. Well, it should take your username too.
Okay, I spend more time each day fighting with logins and
I know it's the worst. I like that's one of the things I really like about mobile stuff, that you could just do like a thumbprint or something like that, and the biometric stuff makes it so much faster. I don't mind that
very
stuff at
fun.
all.
Very fun to facial recognition. So let's
I haven't
try.
gotten into that one yet. I don't know why. I'm just like, nah, thumbprint's fine.
Well, the thing is, if it's too dark, it won't read you, right?
Mm.
Or if you're wearing your glasses, it won't read you. That kind of stuff. So a bunch of goofy stuff happens.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna try putting in my user and my email address. Try to see how that works. Okay. And just log in.
So I created an account.
Mhm.
So now I'm just waiting for the rest of the class to go over and do stuff. Or
Oh, right, it worked.
Yep, got about a minute or so. We're gonna hop back in. We're gonna go through some quick conceptual stuff, and then we'll actually be in Python Anywhere doing some typing, some commands, and some basic moving around in there.
Okay.
But again, it's gonna be back to kind of concepts first. We're gonna talk about a little bit of concepts first, and then we'll wrap the course or wrap the day with some hands-on kind of how to use things in the command line interface. Get going about it. Oh, Cody, man, your question, I saw it in chat. There is no, like, I'm gonna show you how to set up. There's a way to add me as your instructor, but the thing is totally free to sign up. There's no code or anything I'll give you ahead of time.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, no worries. I'm gonna actually, that's one of the steps I'm gonna show you here. We'll do like a walkthrough of Python Anywhere, and you can add me as your instructor, and then I can go in and see your file. I can upload files for you and like help you out with stuff, and we can share consoles or whatever, right? So, like an optional thing, but it's just a setting once you're logged in.
Okay,
I'm looking at I'm looking at the dashboard right now, so I got that far.
Cool. Yeah, if you go to the web tab up at the top there, and then just delete whatever app you made, and then throw out whatever folders that you made, either in the file structure or in the command line, if you remember how to remove the files. If not, that could be what you do as practice for the end of today. That's like a perfect segue for like a thing to do today. You'll have folders and directories you can get rid of. But there it is. Time to start up again. All right, so let's get back going. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna share my screen again. We're gonna go through the quick rest of my slides. What we did up to now was the intro, talk about what the course is generally, kind of organization. We introduce ourselves. Now we're going to get into the content. So what we're going to do on a regular class day when we come in Thursday and every day from now on is going to be more like this. We're going to have a few quick slides and a concept. You know, the algorithms next week might be a little more than that, but for the most part, it's going to be a couple of quick slides, and then we're going to get hands-on with stuff. So I'm going to go finish these up, and we will get hands-on with everything. All right, so we took our break. Now we're going to do an introduction to programming. And computers are stupid. That's the tagline that we want to keep in mind here. They are really, really dumb. They do one thing very fast. They calculate quickly. They count quickly. That's why a lot of languages call them counting machines. But they're not smart. They're not smart. They will stare at you blankly and not give you any information if you don't tell them to give you information. So let's step back and take real quick. What is coding? High-level programming. What is that? You can use those terms interchangeably, but as a concept, it's just written directions for executing some kind of process. That's what it is. That's what coding is. As a practice, it's reading. Again, I'm going to highlight that again. It's reading. Reading is the most important skill. You're going to spend way more time reading than writing when you start doing any kind of coding, working on any projects. You're going to read your own code. You're going to read other people's code. You're going to spend way more time reading documentation than you do actually writing anything. So as a profession, it's like a trade. You know, you got to start out lower levels, practice a lot. You know, there's certifications you may want to get. There's, you know, you work at it for a few years, become like a journeyman at it. It's the same kind of stuff. It's the same sort of thing as like plumbing or being an electrician. You got to learn the basic skills, tools, and then just work at it, practice at it, and get into it. So very similar to that. All right, so this is what we're going to cover in our computing basics. We're going to go kind of from the ground up, top down on this list, but we're going to do hardware. We're talking about operating systems and what they are. None of this is going to be in depth. We're just going to do the very basic quickly. You may know a lot of this already. Hopefully, probably you do. File systems and management. There's reasons that we talk about these parts specifically, though, is to keep these things in mind. We're going to start on very low level stuff and build all the way up to building our own application. And the file systems, the file structures are going to be repeated over and over again. The file structure, the way that a path to a file is built in Linux is going to be the same way that a URL is built in HTTP and on the internet. It's going to be the same patterns that we see over and over again. So we're just going to kind of talk about those things briefly here and then use them over and over again. User interfaces. So we're going to talk about graphical user interfaces or GUIs and the command line interface. And that's what we're going to do a lot of work in, the command line interface. That's where a lot of things are done. Graphical user interfaces, you're pointing and clicking and those sorts of things. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And then we're going to talk about languages, human versus machine. So again, I mentioned I'm a linguist, so I nerd out on this part specifically, but this is really relevant. We're going to talk about why we chose Python, what other languages there are. We have some folks here who have experience in other languages that will definitely corroborate some of the nonsense that I pretend to know when I say these parts of it. But we're going to talk about this bit of it, and this is really what we need to cover for basics to understand where we're going to go into the next part from here. Right. So hardware, the most important parts that we need to keep in track of in hardware are central processing unit, or CPU. This is where all the calculation is being done. It's where the thinking or whatever, it's not thinking, but the calculations and the processing of things is done here. You have to keep track of your memory versus storage. Those are physical components. Memory is something that's not permanent, it's temporary. It's used in a particular session, in a particular application, as opposed to storage, which is persistent. It lasts from one time to the next, and it'll stay there forever. Both are stored, kind of treated somewhat similarly by your computer, but they are physical things that are parts of the hardware. There's memory, there's storage. Then you're going to have your inputs and your outputs, right? So you got a keyboard, mouse, touchscreen, microphone, camera, and your outputs like screen, speakers, things like that. Not a class on any of this. This is just to keep in mind the parts and pieces that you were going to be picturing and thinking of and interacting with as you're writing code, as you're writing applications, whether it's a web application or a desktop application. You're going to be dealing with user inputs. You're going to be dealing with inputs from other systems, and you're going to be handling the outputs. That's the majority of what you do when you're designing a system or an algorithm or any kind of application. So operating systems, we're going to skim over, above hardware, there's like some system programs. We're going to skip that because we're not getting that level of depth exactly. But operating systems are really just sets of programs. They are themselves programs that run other programs. So Windows, Mac, Linux, ones you've probably heard of. We're going to use Linux again in this course. The reason that we do is it's very broadly applicable in tons of places, used all over the place. So You can use Windows to do developing. You can use any of these systems to do developing, but a lot of remote servers, a lot of like mass transit systems, a lot of those sorts of things will run on Linux and have that interface to it. So it's just useful to know. It's a very, very useful thing. Mac and Linux are really similar. They're both Unix based. That's one thing. And Windows is its own thing. Not really important to know, but just to mention, we're doing all of our commands in Linux when we do any command line thing. And so if you are on a Mac and you want to do this locally and you don't want to do it in Python anywhere, it'll be about the same. But if you're on Windows, it may take some translation to write the file paths and things might be different, right? So just be aware of that if you happen to run this on a different operating system. But we will be using Linux in Python anywhere to do the work that we're doing. And just keep in mind, again, all programs that we use, every application that we're using is running inside of an operating system. User interfaces, graphical user interface. So things like point and click, mouse dragging. Windows itself, again, is based like that's why they call it Windows, because the little windows that pop up that are a GUI, a graphical user interface. The dragging and dropping capability, the push button thing that everybody wants to use, right? So this is what non-technical users are going to want from you. So a lot of times when I'm building something, this is what I'm building it for. I'm building a graphical user interface for people who are not going to build the buttons themselves. They're going to push the buttons. That's kind of what developing is, or building the buttons to be pushed by somebody. So you're going to do a lot of that stuff in the command line, which is you could do all the same stuff. You can move files, you could move folders, you move directories, but it's just be text-based. You got to read it all. You got to kind of picture it in your head. You're not going to see it. There's ways to see it. We'll go over some of that. But you could do it with just a keyboard and a screen. It's easier to do things remotely. It's just a lot of kind of direct. You could do a lot of things really fast. Once you get good with this, I swear you're not going to want to deal with handling files on your computer without doing it on a command line. But these are the major types of interfaces that you need to keep in mind. All right, cool. So programming languages, this is where I started, and I made the mistake when I was learning to learn Python first, just kind of in a vacuum by itself, and didn't really understand why. So the other major theme of our course is try to piece together why at all points and understand why we would learn anything in particular. So if you're confused about why you mentioned something or we covered something, stop me and ask. But this beautiful chart here is displaying how languages are basically ranging from human at the top, English in parentheses, that's what we're speaking right now, we're using right now for the course, and machine languages or binary down at the bottom. And the languages in between are programming languages of some kind. So the ones listed in green are what are called general programming languages. And they're used for all kinds of things. They have specific purposes, but they can do a lot of the same stuff. They do a lot of the similar things. We're going to use Python, a little bit of JavaScript in this course, but mostly Python in this course. The reason we do any JavaScript at all is because we're going to be doing something on the internet. It's kind of unavoidable. You can kind of skip JavaScript, but it's really hard. It is the language for the internet, so it's everywhere. It's really good to know at least a little bit of it. We'll do some just as a demonstration of where it can be used. Typically speaking, it's the kind of stuff that makes websites interesting and moving around. Python is a really good entry point for beginners. It's very close, as you can see, to English. It's the closest out of all these languages to English. So it's very easy to read if you read English. It's a lot like reading just a regular English sentence. You can read it out loud and kind of get a sense of what's being done in the program. Unlike these languages, as you get further down towards assembly language and machine language itself, binary, you could write in binary. You could write directly in machine assembly language if you wanted to. It's just really hard to read. So it's really hard for humans to read and understand it. So that's really what this spectrum is trying to show us. There are all kinds of reasons to choose any of the other languages like Swift or Kotlin. Like Swift would be if you're developing iOS applications, and Kotlin would be for Android applications. But again, they're going to do similar things to what Python and JavaScript do in the sense of they're going to have the same kind of control structures and variables. And that their depths, they'll deal with things differently, but we're not going to get to that level of saying why you would choose, say, Java over C or something like that. We're not going to get to that level of it. But just understand that these things are close to English to understand. Is easy for us to read. That means it's harder for a computer to understand. So Python is going to be slower than a lot of the languages that are lower on this list. So depending on what you're trying to do, you may want to choose to learn a lower level language and run something that's faster if that's really, really important to you. The red ones in here are specialized languages of some kind. So they're not really programming languages. Things like SQL, SQL, or structured query language we'll talk a little bit about when we get to databases. It's, again, fairly unavoidable when we talk about relational databases. It's the standard for interacting with those. HTML, CSS, similar to JavaScript, are web standards. You really can't do much on the web without touching those things. But they're not really for it. You can't do a lot with, I mean, you can do a fair amount with them, but they're restricted. HTML is just for the layout of things. CSS is for the color styles and that sort of stuff. And these other ones listed down at the bottom are MATLAB, are very specific for, if you're going to be doing some statistical work and those sorts of things. Shell scripting, we're not going to do shell scripting. We're going to be working in what's called Bash, the born again shell. Again, that's the Linux terminal. And I'm going to throw this out there again. I keep seeing a little pop up on my screen. This is people are putting things in chat. I am not going to read the chat. So if you have something that you're saying to me in chat, I will see it like an hour from now and I won't see it. So take yourself off of mute and say what you're going to say, because I'm not seeing what that is.
We're just leaving comments basically for you saying, hey, this is a good visual, kind of like for you to use. I'm assuming this, you can use this as the feedback. You are in the feedback. This is
Thanks,
a feedback
Scott. You're my honorary TA, man. That's helpful. Now I know it's in the chat. Okay, so I'm gonna keep ignoring the chat then. I won't call it out again. Thank you. All right. So the machine language at the bottom, binary. What is binary? We said it a couple of times. This is binary. There we go. So if you haven't seen binary before, here's some binary for you. It's a bunch of ones and zeros. It's either a 1 or a 0. Binary, bi means 2. And this is how data is stored in your computer. This is how data is stored in memory. This is how data is stored in the storage. And it is made up of these individual ones and zeros called a bit. Each of these is called a bit. 8 of them together is called a byte. So this is how information is stored on your computer. This is how a computer understands information. So going back to that chart and visualize it, I'm not going to go back to it to look at it, just kind of picture that in your head. Again, this is what a computer is reading, no matter what you write in whatever language you write it in. So you can write it in Java, you can write it in JavaScript. It is going to boil down to this at some point, and your computer is only going to read this thing. So what does this mean? This is 0, 1 is read left to right, just like the numbers we read normally, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0. This is the mathiest math we're going to be doing here in the next couple of slides. Again, stay with me. It's not crazy. We're just going to talk about what this means and how it goes from what we type to this, just so we have a concept of it real quick. We know what's going on, and then we're going to move on from it. But this right here, if you don't know, this is a capital N. So a computer looks at this as capital N. So if you want to write a capital N, you could write this every single time and write this 8 characters out instead of writing a capital N, but we prefer not to. So how does this work generally? This is showing us the top end is the base 10 that we're all used to, the 10 digits that we use 0 to 9 to build all the numbers that we normally have. If we remember back to grade school, there's a ones place, tens place, and so on, going from right to left. Again, even though we read the numbers left to right, 1,000, 256, things like that. And we know that if we fill up the ones place, we got to start filling up the tens place. So if we get 9 numbers in here, we go over, put in a 1 in the tens, 0 in the ones. Same thing in binary, except there's only 2 numbers. So in the very first spot on the right, that's the 1 place. Is we put a number in there. If we put a 1 in that 1 place, that's 1. And as soon as you add another one, you have to put a 0 in that first spot and fill in the next one for 2. So each of these places is a 2, because that's the number of objects that we have available, 0 and 1, 2 to a power of something. So 2 to the power of 0, power of 1. And the very bottom row is showing the values of that. So 1, 2, 4, 8, 16. You'll notice they just double as they go up because it's 2s. Great. So that's binary in a nutshell, breaking down like that. So when we go between them, we convert that same binary. You notice the same number we had in each instance, the one that I told you was a capital N. To convert this, what you're going to do is you're going to take the numbers in this top row, the 0 in this case. And if it's a 0, you don't do anything with it. You multiply the number in this third row. So 0 multiplied by 1 is 0. Basically, anywhere there's a 1 in the binary number, you take that value from its third row and you keep it and you add it together. And that gives you a 78. So that's converting binary to base 10. Why would we do that? Great. We've done a conversion. I said this was an N. So what we do is we now go to this thing called an ASCII table. This is a chart that the U.S. Army actually came up with. So thanks a lot, Army. That has a whole bunch of different things put together. We'll read it across the top. Decimal is the number we're looking at. That's important to us. The number we're used to using, the 0 to 9. Hexadecimal, we're going to ignore. That's all the numbers in red. Then binary in green, the 1s and 0s that we're talking about, we're going to use those. Octal, we'll ignore for now. That's the purple ones. And then on the right, char, short for character. Those are the English characters. They're spaces. They're, all the letters, everything, numbers that you could write. So this is the full set of those. And when I've blown up, again, we don't have to read each part of this, but what I've blown up here on the lower right-hand corner is row 78. So remember, we converted this binary number. There's 7 digits here because I took off leading 0, but 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, the same number I've been showing you. We broke that out to 78. And according to this chart, that is the capital letter N. So this is to show you that when we type the letter N capitalized, Shift N, because of this existing and the way that programs are built and computers have been designed, it will interpret that as this binary number, and this is how it does it. So this is really just understanding that this is what's going on every time you're writing something in the language you're writing it. It comes down to ones and zeros eventually.
So just to be clear here, if I wanted to get, it takes 7 bytes to be able to make the letter N. But if I just wanted to make the exclamation point, it takes 6 bytes.
Yep, it does.
That's cool. That's how
Yeah.
you know how much it processes.
Exactly. And it's going to reserve, and that's it's good that you mentioned that, because this, to cover all of these in the ASCII table, takes a maximum of 7 bytes. There's none of these take a full 8, but your memory is going to be partitioned out into 8 bytes generally. That's just generally how it's going to go. And the other implication of that is, so again, this was something in the Army invented the American Standard Code for information interchange. I was going to try to see if I can remember it off the top of my head. I always mess it up, so I just left it here. But that just covers English characters. So Unicode, or UTF-8, is something that you're going to see is kind of the standard on the web now. And it uses all 8 bytes. So it's a standard. It doesn't matter how many bits you're actually using. So you pointed out that you could have just a couple of bits, 6 bits for something else, 7 bits for all the English characters. It's a standard of 8 bytes, and it can then be used for emojis, non-Latin letters, Arabic, Cyrillic, Chinese, that kind of stuff. So you're going to see Unicode a lot more often, but just be aware ASCII exists. And this is generally kind of the encoding of how it works. So this is what's happening every time you're writing code and doing all these things. So any other questions or comments about that? Cool. All right, so we are almost at the end of the slides. I keep promising that we're not going to have very many. And this next one, I believe, is our very last one. We're going to talk about the Linux command line interface, which we're going to get hands on here in a second, and file system basics. So I want to show you this representation of a Linux file system. This is a really generic drawing of a basic Linux system. Every Linux system will have these directories, as they're called. I'll forget and call them files and folders and stuff, but it's directory is the proper term. And it always starts up here at the top with this slash known as root. So that's the bottom or top, I guess, is the top of the tree. It's the top of your file structure. And underneath it, you're going to have these other directories of etc, dev, home, usr, var. We're not going to talk about what those are. If you're really interested, it is worth looking into. Linux is a whole kind of cool world of its own. And doing Linux administration, that's an entire career. Like, you could do that the rest of your life and make pretty good money on it. So, if you want to dive deep into it, go for it. There's a ton of stuff into it, and it's a pretty cool concept. But what we're going to focus on is this root. And then if you go to home, kind of follow the line down, home, so slash home, then imagine another slash after home, and then you see these users. You've got Jono, Mako, and Corey. Those are usernames. So this is where you're going to be doing the majority of your work. When we get into Python Anywhere, we're going to kind of start out as our basic working directory is going to be in this file structure at your username. So you see underneath Jono, it's got work and photos. If you imagine if there's a document in the work directory, it's like appointments.txt or something. This is the path to get there. You would say slash home slash Jono slash work slash file name. And I put this up here again so we picture it, because we're going to be using this in ways that we're not going to readily be able to look at this. We're going to be doing command line interactions where we're going to have to picture this ourselves while we're moving in between these file structures, moving up directories, down directories, keeping track of where files are. Because a major underlying theme of this is that programs, all programs, doesn't matter what they are, how complex they are nothing more than files in directories. That's it. It will never be more than that. So it doesn't matter how cool and sexy it is, if it's ChatGPT or the next robot that's taking over your job, it's a file in a directory. That's it. And it's never going to be anything else. So keep this concept in mind. As promised, that's the last slide. So I'm going to stop sharing this. As we switch over, we have any questions, comments, or anything about that?
I have one, Jeff.
What you got?
So at the end of this course, how close to being able to get a job will I be if once I develop a page and that sort of thing?
I mean, that kind of depends on how big of a hustler you are, man. But like it's the skills that we're going to go through and show you are the skills that you would need to use as like a junior developer. And if you do everything that we do in the course, then I would say you probably have to spend another couple of weeks really practicing like algorithm, depending on what kind of job you say. When you say get a job, depends what kind of job you're trying to get, right? You'll be well positioned for it. You'll have skills for it. It's going to take more practice though. So the end of 6 weeks, I would say you're probably not ready unless, again, you have a solid background and you're just adding Python to it.
Right.
If you're starting from zero today, 6 weeks is probably not going to be enough to get you totally ready to just flat out on it. It's going to take more
Won't
work.
be a garbage truck you can't run though.
Absolutely. Yeah. You'll have all kinds of really useful skills. It's just, taking that extra, that going that last mile, I mean, that's tough.
Yeah.
So, but that's what we're here for though. So again,
Okay,
get through
cool.
the course and we can
It
talk
does
about
give you, for this, it does give you a good opportunity to understand the equipment operation. A lot of equipment out there in the field is using this type of stuff. They're using language in the back end to do a move on the production line or whatever. So knowing this kind of you understand a little bit of what is happening with the machines in almost every production line in America.
Yep.
Right,
That's
simple.
Great call. Yeah, absolutely. It's so widely used that just understanding this stuff, it's kind of a matter of how you want to apply it and what you want to do with it. And there's a lot of opportunities out there for it. So
Okay.
great stuff. Any other questions? All right, cool. All right. So the main thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna share my screen again. And what I'm showing now is the Python Anywhere screen. This is what you see when you log in. This is your dashboard. I've blown my screen up a little bit so everybody can read it a little bit. So hopefully it's not too small. It's like 125%. So if that's too big and jammed up, let me know. I can make it smaller or bigger, whatever the case may be. But if you've already signed up, there's a number of things in here that we're going to do. Got about 15 minutes, so we're going to go through an orientation on here, and we'll get hands-on as much as we can with some commands. But real fast, by way of orientation, you got this kind of blue bar at the top with the log out, account, blog. We're going to skip down below that where it says dashboard. That's where we are now. Has a bunch of info for us. Consoles, we're going to spend some time working in. We're going to go there today. And files and webs. These first four are where we're going to spend most of our time in the course. We're not going to do tasks or databases, but those are available to you. Tasks is not like a task list, just so you know. That's for asynchronous tasks. If you have something that takes a lot of compute power and you don't want your website to like hang up and die while it does that, you want to tell users, hey, we got your request, we're working on it. That's what tasks are. So we're not going to cover that in this course, but it's available to you if you, again, take this basic stuff further and want to call some complicated APIs and you don't want your site to crash while the API does what it does, and maybe, don't want your site to die. That's what tasks would be for. And databases, again, we're going to use the very basic database that's built into Django is the framework we're going to use. It has a development database built into it. But Python Anywhere, if you want to have a more robust database, they have a MySQL instance that you can use for free. We'll talk about SQL stuff, but we're not going to implement that here. So these last two, we're not really going to touch. So one thing for now, if you want to add me as your instructor, if you're on Python Anywhere now, up in the top where it says account, up here next to log out, between blog and log out, you click on account and it'll take you to this thing that tries to pitch you on all kinds of stuff. And right in the middle, there's a button for education right next to it. So it says, security, email, then education after your upgrade, downgrade account pitch. If you click on education, then there should be an opportunity for you to add. So enter your teacher's username. And my username is Hired Labs DI as in drill instructor 42. I'm going to send that in the Zoom chat because I can't call myself a drill instructor every day, but I can when I'm in class. So, wait, hang on a second. Stop sharing real fast and get this into the chat. All right, so there's my username. I dropped it in the chat. If you just want to copy and paste it into your instance and set me as your instructor, you're welcome to. It's not required, but if you do, then I'll be able to, again, access your list. I'll be able to access your files. I see some of you already added me, which is great. So I'll be able to go into your instance of this and upload files, see the work you've done, help you out if you get stuck, those sorts of things. Great. So let's dive in and do something. All right. So we've got our dashboard here that tells us our CPU usage and our file storage. So again, that's our processing power and our storage power. We're not going to use all of this, but as you're playing with things, I encourage you to keep about 25-ish% available for course material, right? The rest of it you can fill up with whatever you like. But you don't have a huge amount of storage, so, you may run out of it. But what we're going to do today is we're going to start with consoles. So up here at the top, next to dashboard, and go over to consoles. And we're going to dive into our first, what is called a bash console, the born again shell. So over here where it says, under the Python Anywhere logo, it says start a new console, left-hand side. Then you got a bunch of options. You got Python, you got IPython, PyPy. We're not going to worry about those. Under the other choices, the very first one is Bash. We're just going to click on that. We're going to open up our Bash console. And whenever this decides to actually give me my Bash console, it's going to set up the environment. It's going to do some loading. And there we go. So now we are in our Bash terminal. And this is our home directory. I'm going to zoom in a little bit again so we can see everything. But if it's just too big or small or whatever, shout out, let me know.
Yeah, Jeff, excuse me. Can we go through that part again? I was trying to copy your instructor name into the.
Sure. Go to dashboard.
Okay.
Or I'm sorry, go to consoles and start a new Bash console. So go to consoles and then under start a new console. And where it says other.
Consoles? Do we need a split screen for this, or?
It's probably best. It would be best because I'm going to be typing, and you should follow along. This is the follow along moment. So this is what we're going to be doing. A majority of the course is following along, getting your hands on, and getting working.
Okay,
so
I'm looking at
how you can.
I'm looking where it says your consoles. Is that where I want to be?
So right above that, where it says other, if you don't have a Bash console already, start a new Bash console on the word Bash right above that you're looking. It says other. Right next to it says Bash. I'm going to start a new Bash console.
I'm seeing Bash console with a bunch of numbers behind it.
Perfect. Open that one. That's a Bash console. So that's one you already had open. This one that exists. You see now that I've opened one, it says your consoles and I have a Bash console. If you already have one, you can open one. But for those of you that are doing this the very, very first time, it's going to be other and then Bash is what you're going to select.
Okay, there it is.
Cool. So once you're in, you should have a screen that looks like this. It's going to give you a time in, I'm assuming this is UTC. I haven't double checked, but I'm pretty sure that's the Universal Time Code or Greenwich Mean Time. That's in there. And then you have this tilde symbol and then a $. So these are all standard things. This little tilde means, it is short for your home directory. So that directory that I showed you before, that picture, this means home. That's what that means, is a shorthand for that. And so we can verify that with one of our first commands. Any command that we write in, we're going to, just as a note, they're going to be all lowercase. They're usually abbreviations. So even if I say a word all the way out, it's probably not that full word written unless I say it's the full word written. There aren't spaces in the command name itself. It's just going to be one thing. There will be spaces for other options that you put after it, but it's always lowercase and it's always one word. So, or one set of characters. So the first command that I want us to learn is called print working directory, PWD, and it's going to tell you exactly where you are. It's going to show you the full path of the directory that you are currently in, that you're working in, your working directory. So what we said before, we got the / home / and then username. So that puts us in that directory that we mentioned, that I said before, that we expected to be in. So the next thing that's useful for this is seeing what else is in here. So imagine if you're on a desktop in a graphical user interface and you could see that you're in this particular spot, but you expect to see what files and folders are in your directory. So the way we do that is with the list command, where it's ls, nothing else. We just type ls, and it'll list everything that's in our directory. So right now, when you first start, you should just have a readme.txt that's like this. If you just type in ls. And what I want to show you with this command, we're going to use it a lot to just see what we have, what's available, list out what's in there. We could do all kinds of stuff with this. We could open the text file. We could do different stuff. But I want to show you the thing that Linux does with commands called flags. So you can add options to a command by adding what's called flags. So the ls, the list command, we're going to do that again, except I want to see hidden files and things that aren't readily available, like the readme.txt. So the way I do that is I do a space and then a dash, and it'll tell Linux that I'm going to be giving it flags of some kind. I'm going to give it a set of other things that I want it to change the behavior of this command, this list command. So the flag I'm going to choose for this one is A, so I'm just short for all, and it means everything. So I'm going to do ls dash, or ls space dash A, no space between the dash and the A. And as you see, when I hit enter on that, it's going to give me a whole bunch of other stuff. And don't be worried if yours doesn't look exactly like mine. I didn't throw out all of the hidden folders and files that I've used for different things. Yours might look a little different, but you should have at least the bash, this .bashrc. This is the configuration file for the terminal you're in. So if you want to make changes to anything, that's where you would make the changes to it. But that's an example of a flag. So the A flag shows everything that's in there. I like to have my lists listed out kind of top to bottom in a different way. So I like to use the L flag, and then the H flag, which changes these numbers into human readable numbers. So if this will stack up the exact same things we were just looking at, but in a top to bottom list that's a little more information. It shows me who actually owns the file. Over here on the left, it shows who has permissions, like what kind of permissions they have. So more information than I generally need, but it also stacks it top to bottom. It's easier for me to read, right? So that's ls command. That's a very, very useful command. Another great command, now that we've got this all cluttered up and everything like that, is the clear command. This is a full word. So you just type in the word clear, all lowercase, and hit enter. It'll clean up your console. I use that constantly. So I kind of actually overuse it and keep this obsessively clean.
What does LS stand for? List?
List, yes. It's short for list.
Yeah.
I have a
and another,
question.
yeah, sure. What's up?
Okay. If I want to go back through this thing and clean up all the files I did from the last time I took the course, would this be the good place to do it?
This would be a place to do it, absolutely. And I think where we end up today will be leaving you with kind of that as the challenge to not challenge, but like practice, to go in here, make some directories, throw out, get rid of directories, that kind of thing. And if you already have some that you made from the last course, you could throw those out and use these practice commands to do that. So let's do a couple of those. So we looked at like how to list what's in there, how to show what's available. The other things, and I guess taking a step back, the reason we're doing all this stuff now is because we're just going to be using this as we go forward, as we do Python. This is not Python yet, obviously, but we're going to be running commands in here. We're going to be making files in here. We're going to be making directories as we make our application. We're going to be in here a lot as we do this. So these things that we're going through now are just some basic commands that are commonly used in Linux. We're not going to go through all of them today.
What about type to clear the screen? How'd you clear your screen?
Just the word clear, C-L-E-A-R, no capitalization, all lowercase, no spaces.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's not going to be comprehensive. We're going to be wrapping up here in just a few minutes. So we're not going to go through the full list. So what I want everyone to do at the end of today is, if you've gotten to this point, you're here, we're going to go through a few more commands, do a few more things. What I want you to do is look up. I don't think I added a list of Linux commands, because that's just something you would just find on Google very easily. Just say basic Linux commands, or look up a specific thing to do, like making a directory, moving files. Imagine all the stuff you do with your drag and drop on your desktop, and do similar things here. So we'll go through a couple of them now as practice to show you the commands, kind of things that I'm talking about, and some of the cool tricks that are available to you in Linux while you're learning to do this. So we can even use some of the commands we've done already.
Real quick, you said basic list commands in Google, excuse me.
Yeah, basic Linux. So Linux, basic Linux. Yeah, basic Linux CLI or command line commands.
I'm going to help. I dropped the actual good one to go to. It's ss64.com/bash. It'll give you all of the syntax for bash command line communication. Perfect.
Absolutely. Great. So I'll probably grab that and add it to the resource list, or you can even add, I think you can add it to the resource. If not, man, I'll add it. That's great. That's a great catch. Yeah, I appreciate it. So a few things that I want to demonstrate are like definites to learn. So we did the clear and the list. Those are really, really, really useful. Other things that I definitely want you to know how to do are making directories, making files, and then like deleting and removing those. So the way we make a directory, let's practice making a directory first. We'll put a file in it. We'll delete that file, and then we'll delete the whole directory, right? So to make a directory, we use the command mkdir, or just make directory is what it's short for. All one word, all lowercase. And then we have to give it the name of directory and a path to that directory. So if we just give it a name of something, it's going to start where we are and say, okay, cool, this is where we want that to be, and it'll just make a directory with that name. So I'm just going to make an example directory called example, because I'm really, really creative. So now to prove that it's there, we're just going to do ls. I'm going to put my LH. I'm going to skip the A because I don't want all that stuff again. I just want the two things that I expect to be there should be my README file and the example directory that I just made. And as you can see, I put them over there. Again, you could just do ls with no flags, and it would just put them side by side in kind of a line. But so mkdir, that is how you make a directory. Very useful. We'll do it constantly. We're doing it a bunch of times in this course. There are all kinds of ways to make files. There's tons and tons and tons of ways to do it. A very, very, very fast command is the word touch, that just creates a file where you want it to be. So you say touch space and then the path to that file. So we could use our example directory. I'm going to file in that example directory. And another thing I want to tell you before I type out the word example, that's really cool in Linux that you got to get used to using is called tab completion. So you start typing a word that you expect to be in the directory that you're in, and then you hit, or a command that you expect to exist, and you hit the tab key. And if that exists, it'll fill it in for you. You don't have to write the whole word, right? This is really helpful to know that the thing you're looking for exists, right? So like if I was in a different
100%.
directory and this example directory wasn't here and I tried hitting tab, it would say, oh, it's not there. It doesn't exist, right? So very useful. So we're going to say touch
100%.
the directory name and then the file name. So I'm going to say, you know, test.txt. It's not going to tell me anything happened. So for me to know that that happened, I'm going to list what's in that directory. So I don't have to move from where I am to see what's in there. I can do ls and then pass it a directory name, and it'll show me what's inside of there. And there's my test document. So we created a document using the word touch. Nothing in that document, but it exists now. So that's one way that we can create documents. Another way to create documents and edit them, change them, make changes to them, is a built-in text editor into any of these consoles.
Can we go back, drop back a step?
Sure. What's up?
Okay. Okay. Touch space example / test.txt, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. I get that in. I entered, and it gives me the prompt, the $ prompt, but it doesn't give the
it won't give you any confirmation when you're done. It just, that's what it does. When you run this command, the touch example test.txt, it's just going to give you back the prompt. It won't say that it did anything. You just have to go and list it to see if it's there. So to make sure that it's there, do ls and look inside of your directory to see that it's there, because it won't give you confirmation after you do touch. There's nothing that says, hey, you made a file. It just does it.
Yeah, there we go. There's a file listed.
All right. So this other thing I'm doing the last couple of minutes, real quick, is a built-in text editor. So there's tons of different text editors you could download and install and stuff like that. There's one built-in. It's called Vim, V-I-M, and we get to it by typing the word V, or we can type Vim, but we're going to type V. And if you just do this by itself, it'll just open up a text editor with no particular file. But if you pass it a file name, we can either open a file name that exists, so we can open that test.txt, make changes to it, do stuff to it, or we could just create a new file, just one that doesn't exist. So I can just do new file.txt. So I do V and then the file name I want to use. So for this example, I'm going to do new file.txt. And when I hit enter on this, I want y'all to try this. It's going to be terrifying. You're going to hate it. We hit enter. It's going to bring you here. It's going to take control of your console. And you're going to be in this thing. Now, this is classic. People get stuck here all the time, and it's infuriating. It's hard to get out. When you're here, if you want to leave, hitting escape is usually the best place to start. So start by hitting escape, and then you type the word colon, or the word, just the colon, right down the bottom. You're looking at my lower left-hand corner, and then you type the letter Q, and that's going to quit and exit from this. So now it'll bring you back to here. So this is something I want you to practice a couple of times. Just doing V. It'll take you to this thing. Hit escape just to make sure that you're not where you shouldn't be. Hit colon and hit quit to come in and out of V. I definitely want you to be able to do that, because it's a really fast way to just make a file, write into a file, do something with it, right? So let's.
Let me ask this, okay?
Sure.
I'm trying to write this down. Okay. So you type in V, right?
Yep. I was gonna say real quick, Mike, as just very fast. Anyone who's trying to write this down somewhere other than their console is wasting their time, because right here you could type in the word history and it'll give you every command you write into the console. So if you write along with us, if you write along with us and do these things with us, it is taking notes. So write it into your console. Even if you write it wrong, it'll save it. It'll still be there. You can look at it again. So the word history, that's also really, really useful. So we'll go in here real fast. We're at time, so I'm gonna do this real quick, and I'm gonna leave you with some direction on some other things to practice on how to remove these directories and do some other stuff. But I want to show you V again real fast, because it's super cool. And I want you all kind of get stuck in it for the first time, because it's a lot of fun. So I'm gonna do this new file.txt. So I'm gonna do for v space new file.txt, open up this file. Now, once I'm in here, it's going to say down at the bottom, it says new file.txt, new file.txt. Up here it says 1. Now, if I start typing, nothing's going to happen. It's not going to work right away. So I have to type the letter I to go to insert mode. And I know I'm in there down here at the bottom where it says insert. And now I'm going to write some stuff. Now I can write whatever I want to. And then when I'm done, I'm going to hit escape to get rid of the insert mode. And then I'm going to hit colon and hit W, which means write. So it's going to write what I put here. It's going to save it. That's how we save. It's W and then Q. And now it's taking me back here. And now I can see that that new file exists. It's in my list. And another cool command is we can read what's in a file with the word cat, which is short for concatenate. So we can concatenate that new file. And there's the 2 lines that I added, the blank line and the right stuff. So V is a really useful built-in text editor that I want you all highlighting everything for me. I want you all to practice using that. Get into V, get out of V. Open it and close it. If you get stuck, if you're in here, you go to V, you start doing stuff and you're like, oh no, I don't know what I'm doing. I forgot how to get out. Just after you panic.
Escape colon and Q.
Yep, escape colon and Q. But if you get stuck, if you forget that, if you try it, it doesn't work, just listen to this. If you don't know, if it doesn't work, whatever, go to this section of Python Anywhere, go to your consoles and destroy the console. Just close it, get rid of it, and be done with it and start another one. Don't be afraid to do that. It's not going to kill you. You may lose your history. You may lose some parts of it. Maybe not even. Let's see what we got for our history. Nope.
I found it
There's some
useful
parts of
to
it.
have multiple tabs. One I had my dashboard up on, one I had the web app on, one I was running a console, and it just
Absolutely.
bounce between the tabs.
But
So
the-
just
but the point is that
right-click
if
on
you-
it and say open a new tab.
The idea is that if you ever get stuck in a console for whatever reason, like if you go to V and you get stuck in here and you can't figure out, can't remember the colon WQ, whatever it is, just destroy the console and quit. It's okay. It's fine. You'll get over it. We'll all move on and it'll be great. All right. So we're a little bit over time. So the things I want to leave you with are this. Check out how to remove directories. There's 2 commands that I want you to get good at using. rmdir is to remove a directory. Try that out a couple of times. Try making directories. Try removing directories. There are some caveats on when this will work and when it won't, but I'm not going to tell you. I want you to run into that either by reading the documentation or trying it yourself. And then the other one is just rm, and that's for removing files. It's also for removing directories, though. I'm going to just drop that for you. So it's definitely files, can be directories, depending on certain situations. But we are going to stop it there, and I'm going to leave you with those things to play with. Stop sharing my screen. I'm going to grab this thing from Scott, make sure I copy it. But absolutely, yeah. Well, there you go. History. Cody even called it out. So thank you all for your time and attention. We're a few minutes over time. This is basically the format of the course moving forward, though. We're going to come in Thursday. We're going to do a little bit more of this. We're just going to keep using the bash terminal and doing things, but we're going to start writing Python. We're going to talk about Python, specifically the syntax, and we're going to set up some files and run some Python programs, a simple Python program next time. And we'll be running that, by the end of the week. So any final thoughts, questions, comments, or anything before we wrap up for today?
I just have to learn how to, I'm gonna get another monitor here so I can have my monitor up, have one screen up and follow you on the other screen.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Yeah. And so when we get to after, so like the first few days, today and Thursday, it's a lot of this sort of thing where I'm just writing, kind of giving general guidelines. When we get into the actual application building, we're going to have step-by-step documentation written out ahead of time that you can literally take, copy and paste. Because again, the most important thing that we want to impart here is reading and understanding. So being able to produce these things off the top of your head is not as necessary. Being able to remember how to write the code exactly is not as necessary, especially with things like text generative AI. You can have those things help you write the code. If you know how to read it and use it, again, we'll show this on Thursday. If you know how to read it, use it, and implement it, remembering how to come up with it is less important. So we'll have more of that stuff. And again, if there's something specific, if you're like, hey, I forgot what that command was, or like, what was that list that Scott shared or something like that, we can find a good resource for you that's got those written down as well. But Anything else?
Jeff, question about the slides. Will you be sharing that as well along with the recording?
I haven't, but I mean, yeah, if you got some reason that you really want the slides, then I can give them to you.
I'd like that.
Sure. If you really like, I hate slides, but yeah,
I do
sure.
too.
If you want to collect slide decks, man, no problem. I'll send you a copy of the slide deck, and I can make it available for everybody else. I can just pin it in the Discord server, and then you can
cool
peruse at your discretion, I guess.
Yeah, would the recording be in the Discord server too?
Yeah, I'm gonna pin everything in Discord server. I'm gonna email it out to everybody again because some people just never get on Discord, which is cool. That's all right. It's your choice. And then also just everybody who didn't even join class today, if they enroll in everything and they're set up, like there's a handful of people that didn't make it today, they'll all get the recordings as well. Our recordings from last time are in Discord as well. We archived them on YouTube. So these ones that I send, once Zoom is done processing, it's going to take a little while. So I'll send them out either tonight or tomorrow morning with like a passcode you watch it on Zoom for this one. And then, again, if you want to work ahead, you can look at the other ones. But yeah, they'll all be in Discord and then email.
So where's Discourse at?
So Discord, I sent in the email that I sent it out. There's a link to our server that it's another app. It's optional. Again, you don't have to use Discord if you don't want to, but it's totally free. But again, it's not going to charge you nothing to use it. It's a way that you can chat in between, share stuff. I'm going to pin all the resources in there. And if you have a question while you're working on something or you forgot something, you could just blast it out there and me or someone else in the course can answer you, right? That's the idea. So you're definitely welcome to join it.
Yeah, quick question, Jeff. How do I add you as my instructor?
What's that?
How do I add you on as my instructor on?
Add you as an instructor. Yeah, sure. It's second. Let me pop back over here. I can share my screen real quick. All right. So if you're in Python anywhere on your dashboard, kind of up here at the top where there's like a logout button at the right, to the left of that, it says account.
Right.
Click on account, and then it'll give you all these sales pitches to upgrade your account. Sort of middle of the page where it says security, email, and education.
Yeah.
Click on the education tab, and then if you add my username, which I put in the chat, but it's Hired Labs DI 42, and you just add that right in there, and it should add me, and then I can hop in and look at you. And again, with the V stuff like that, if you get stuck in there, don't just silently be stuck and frustrated and walk away. Ping me, let me know, and I'll come in there. I can get you unstuck if you forget how to do it, right? So add me as your instructor. Get yourself stuck. That's the fun part. That's how learning actually happens, is break things, throw it out. This isn't like building a car. You're not going to actually lose any real materials if you decide to scrap it and start over. So it's cheap. Play around with it, enjoy it, and reach out with any questions.
Be creative and change the name he gives you in the app, and you'll have a real fun day.
I'm gonna remind you not to do that. Yeah, we'll get down to that point. Sometimes when I come up with a name, like when I do an example file and stuff like that, sometimes I'm just grabbing it off the top of my head. But sometimes it's important that we all name it the same thing, or else you'll run into issues. But we'll get there when we get there. Cool. Any other questions?
Jeff, am I reading this correctly? We can do up to 5 consoles at the same time.
I think so. No, actually, there's 2. There's 2 consoles that you can have at once.
Okay.
On the free version. But again, like all those things can be upgraded for if you want to pay for it. But just that 2 will be plenty for our purposes. We may have 2 open at once, but 2 is going to be good.
I just want to add that you could browse through your history using the up arrow as well.
Yes. Also good. Yeah, good call. If you want to use I was going to get there eventually, man, but that's absolutely true. There's all kinds of great stuff like that where you can grab anything out of your history by hitting the up arrow, so you don't have to retype entire commands. Lots of good Linux tricks. Now, see, Linux is just, seriously, once I started learning to do it, it's so much fun. There's so many things you can do with it. It's crazy. It's great. I still use Windows. I actually have both Windows and Linux. I'm that much of a nerd on my computer now because some things work better on Windows, like Zoom. This works better on Windows. I keep having to crash on Linux. But in development I do, I really like doing it better over there because it's just so much easier manipulating files in bulk and stuff like that. But excellent. I'm glad nobody said that they hate it and took off yet. But again, get stuck in V a couple of times and maybe we'll change your mind. Anything else? Any other questions, comments?
Hey, how come Makefile isn't working?
Make file, because that's not a command, I don't think.
MK file.
No, that's not a command.
It's not. Oh, and I
don't think
guess
so.
that thing needs to be removed from that. Don't take all of what's
I
on
don't.
that
I don't
website.
think. I mean, I don't know that command. So like, I've never used that to make a file. I've only ever used like touch or V or one of those
Oh.
other things.
It's because it's telling you how to do it is different. If you click on that, just let me know how the little link is, because it's telling me to do MK file and put a bracket and then put -NV, then something else.
Yeah, that might be a little more complex than we need, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's not the way I typically do it. I mean, it could be a command that I'm just
No.
not. It's not one I use. Stuff like, again, touch and V, that gets it done every time.
Touch is easier.
Yeah, it is. There's supposedly, I've heard some people that are nerdier than myself talk about the implications of it as somehow there's like there's reasons not to. I don't know, I've never.
Oh,
I've never
and that's
run
a
into that.
Git problem. I think it's a Git problem. That's why it
Oh,
has
is
to
it?
do with Git. Yeah, I think there's touch and Git. I heard something about that. That it's an issue because if you're trying to do a touch to make
Mhm.
a file in Git, it's actually more of a problem. I don't think it's just everywhere, but
Yeah,
that's the only thing
I've
I'm
never
trying to
run into a scenario where touch has done me wrong. So, which that's a kind of an odd sentence to say if we take it
It's
out
a
of context.
time. It says change file timestamps. Maybe that's why, because it's doing a different. It's giving you a file, but it's the timestamps are different.
What are you doing,
It's probably
Scott?
a lot deeper.
Scott,
Yeah.
Scottford, are you on a split screen or you have two different monitors or what?
Normally I do have two different monitors, like for my job and all that stuff. But no, I just pushed each screen, one. I pushed my internet to my left part of the screen, and on the right part of my screen is Zoom. That's all I did. It's
So you
like
you got a split screen, huh?
yeah, it's split screen where the computer automatically does it. So if you're
Oh, right,
you
right,
should do
I
it,
see.
click and drag to the side, snap to the side.
Right.
Or if you do like, so I hold the Windows button.
Oh,
If you got a
yeah.
Windows machine, and hit the left arrow, and
Yeah.
push it to
Yeah.
one side or the other.
I just did it. I got
There you
the
go.
yeah, it's the little thing up here with the boxes in it.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
do it.
yeah. Okay, cool.
Cool.
Okay, great.
Hey, good stuff, Jeff. Thanks. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
right on. Appreciate it, Scott. See you Thursday.
Thanks, you guys.
Super fun.
Yep. Thanks a lot, y'all.
All right,
Have a
guys.
great
Good
one.
night.
you.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Guess I better go.
Thank you, Jeff. See you.
Yep. See you later, Richie. Have a good one.